So the last slide of our whole presentation here was, I think, kind of a summary of some of this stuff. 10 things to remember from Bernie's campaign that I thought were really good tips that we talked about last time. The first one is that when you're organizing, you will make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, so do your best to correct them and move on. Don't dwell on it too much, because if you do, you'll just make yourself burn out, right? We learn from making mistakes, so do the best you can. Own up to your mistakes, try to learn from them, correct them, and just keep going. Everybody makes mistakes. Don't worry about it, and all of us keep working. The second one is assume nothing, follow through on everything. So this is an important one where you should don't assume that something is happening the way that you think or at the right time that you think or whatever. Always follow through on things, check things, double check things, make sure that stuff is set up and proceeding the way that everyone expects. Number 3, make decisions. So this kind of goes with make mistakes, right? Make decisions. So don't agonize. Don't wait for a perfect solution, because there will never be perfect things. Based on whatever information you have, get everyone together, talk about it, think about it a little bit, but then make a decision, and go with it and learn from your mistakes if that happens. Because if you keep agonizing, you keep waiting, then nothing will ever happen. You have to make a decision and go from there. No, I'm not saying
think of the Green Party's media committee.
Yeah.
Right. We will debate and debate and debate the details of a press release to the point that it's not released until after it's relevant.
Right.
It's like we'll spend 3 days really fine tuning what exactly we want to say, but 3 days after the fact, no one cares what we have to say.
Right. Yeah. So
personal pet peeve there.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to make decisions, and it depends on what timeline you're looking at. And for things like media releases, it needs to go out quick. So depending on when a decision needs to be made, just go and make the decision. And it might not be the perfect solution. It might not be the perfect answer. You might not have perfect knowledge, but that's just how it is sometimes. Number 4, campaigning is a social process. People like to be asked for help and thanked for help. So when you're deep canvassing and all, I think this can relate to our ladders of engagement. Ask folks for help. Start with small asks, work your way up to big asks, and when they help, thank them for their help. And they're more likely to help in the future. They're more likely to bring their friends next time, all that stuff. Organizing is social. You don't do it by yourself. You do it with other people. You build power together and not by yourself.
And as a grassroots party, I think it's important for us to recognize that oftentimes we are relying on exploitative models, right? We're relying on volunteers to do full-time jobs unpaid. I say as a former co-chair, and Garrett's a current co-chair, right? To be a Green Party national, be a national Green Party co-chair is a full-time job to do it right, and they're unpaid, right? This isn't my usual shtick where I plead with Greens to pay people at least a stipend. This is that we need to, you've got to be thankful. You've got to be appreciative, and you've got to be publicly those things. Because when you're running a volunteer ran organization, people are doing generally thankless work out of their own goodness of their own heart, right? So we've got to make sure that we're creating a positive social culture within the campaign where people actually get whatever kind of recognition or things that we can give them to recognize and appreciate them.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see, social. So number 5, in small races, the personal usually dominates. Issues matter more as the campaign grows. So when you're talking about local elections, it's that personal stuff, asking folks, what do they care about? That's what's going to win the election. The abstract issues, matter more for like congressional campaigns, right? That's what motivates people for Congress, these big ideas. When you're running for local office, it's whatever people care about. A lot of times it's like, I want my sidewalk paved, or I want the trash picked up. It's a lot of these very local personal things that folks care about. So you want to focus on those. Number 6, the campaign that keeps on the offensive without being offensive will usually win. I like that. So it's you don't want to sling mud necessarily, but you want to keep on the offensive. You want to keep up messaging on your goals, on what the problems are and what the answers are that you have determined together as a community. That is what's going to resonate, which feeds into number 7, right? All politics is local. Translate the big issues that are being talked about nationally into local terms. The Green New Deal is a national policy, but when it's fully implemented, when it's fully moving, it's going to matter a lot in local terms, because it's going to be more jobs. It's going to be solar panels everywhere, wind energy. It's going to be rebuilding a lot of critical infrastructure, building municipal water systems and whatnot, all of the public infrastructure that has been neglected for decades. So you can translate it into how it's going to help folks locally. And that's just one example, obviously, but translate issues into local terms and on the terms that people care about when you were doing your canvassing. Yeah.
Yeah, like if I'm talking about electric arc furnaces, makes a lot more sense in Garrett's dying steel town than it does here in central Illinois, right? Where I'll probably see far more success talking about, regenerative agriculture, and decentralizing, decorporatizing agriculture given the fact that I live in one of the major bread baskets of America, right? So which part of the Green New Deal we center will be different, and how do those things, manifest will be different. So, I've got little to no reason to talk about arc furnaces. I don't have a steel industry, and my town has never had one. But it's a very on point thing for Garrett to be talking about in his community, because that abandoned steel mill down the street can start producing steel again, but it can do it in a better way. And it can do it worker owned, and it can do it ecologically.
Yeah, exactly. You translate it. That's kind of the true meaning of decentralization in a sense, right? You customize things for the local conditions and the local issues. And it also relates to the groundwork research we talked about in an earlier slide. If you know the history of your region, for example, in my area of Pittsburgh, there's the steel industry and all dominated. So if I can talk about steel, but hey, we could do steel in a more ecologically friendly way, that's what people relate to. That's the local terms that they understand. Number 8 is this is a really important one for folks joining the Green Party, any sort of independent movement, because the political deck is so stacked against us. It's not that we can't win, but that it is an uphill battle. It's going to take a lot of organizing effort, and it's going to take time. So we have to keep in mind that one campaign is not going to make or break a movement. Even if we don't win that campaign, a losing campaign can still provide the basis for winning next time. There's lessons to learn from that campaign. Even though we didn't get the person elected, we might have built a membership, right? We built connections in our community. We built trust with our community. We've learned about the policy that they care about, that we can make sure that we campaign on more next time. There's a lot of lessons we can learn from even the so-called failures. And once we've learned those and integrated into our organizing work, you can be sure that next time we do it, we will win. So yeah, don't get stuck on any particular thing. Just keep fighting, just keep doing it, and learn. Whether you win or lose, learn from that and keep building.
And on the community organizing side, sometimes your victory is that you showed up.
Yeah.
Right. That community, even though you lost, That community saw you shoulder to shoulder in the street. That community saw you putting your blood and sweat into it, right?
Mhm.
And so even though you lost, now you're in a much stronger, much more trusted, much more respected position moving forward to win the next one. And a lot of times that what it means is that you'll be in a position to be ahead of the next one, right? Because if our politics is reacting, rather than being ready for it ahead of time. A good example that I think of is the Arab Spring, right? People who watch the news in the United States think that just kind of happened, right? Oh wow, all of a sudden things really popped off over there. No, I mean we're talking decades-long organization in places like Egypt to bring down that regime. That it was those that were and some of those organizations ended up being good guys and some ended up being bad guys. But the Arab Spring in Egypt that toppled the dictator, a multi-decade dictator, didn't spawn out of thin air, right? Another example that I think of is Rosa Parks and the bus boycott, right? Rosa Parks wasn't just tired. Rosa Parks was tired, but Rosa Parks wasn't just a tired woman who refused to move back to the bus. Rosa Parks was a secretary at the NAACP. Rosa Parks was active in the movement. Rosa Parks chose to that was a plan. They were going to kick off this thing, right? The boycott didn't just happen. The boycott had planning underground before it actually came into effect. So a lot of time, that one might not be the best example because they won, right? And this is the quotes about losing. But that goes back to, what is a victory, and making sure that we're, not just saying that the only way we win is if we win. Because it's about building blocks. It's about taking steps. It's about building the foundation that can get us to that ultimate victory.
Yep, absolutely. We can't define success for our movement in terms of what the capitalist duopoly defines as success, because their success is not success for the working class. We have to do it differently. All right, so number 9 here is that campaigns should be fun and organizing work should be fun. This is something that often gets overlooked, right? We're all business, right? We have our business meeting and we go home, we do our action and we go home. It should be fun because building community, building trust, getting to know your neighbors and all that should be a fun activity. Building a better world should be a fun activity. So make sure that you're setting aside time to do fun things and social events and have fun as you're campaigning. And this is also important to avoid burnout, so that we can keep organizing. Because if we burn out, then you're not helping anything anymore, right? So. And lastly, every campaign, every organizing action is a chance to show who you are. So we have to make sure our actions and our campaigns show what we mean by grassroots democracy and show what we mean by doing something different from politics as usual, from the capitalist style politics. Show what we mean by being different from the two old party duopoly system. So that means doing everything differently than the way that they've told us. And like we were saying earlier, sometimes when you recruit folks directly from the Democratic Party, they come in with the baggage. They come in with the expectation to run campaigns like you would in a Democratic Party, which is not actually grassroots democratic, right? It's not actually anti-capitalist. It's not actually pro-working class. So of course we have to do things differently, and we have to show folks how we do different things differently, and that we mean it when we say to do things differently, right? It's embodied in everything we do. It's very visible, transparent. They can see it.